Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. And yes, as you all know, this is all about sports. That is the show and I'm sure you guys would definitely love it. You can get in touch with us on our social media handles, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. But anyways, first things first, we'll definitely be focusing on sports and you can definitely reach out to us on our social media handles so we can make it more interactive show for you guys. And I'm sure that we definitely try our level best to give you the best and the most quality news that we have got. But anyways, first things first, we'll switch over to the headlines. All right, first things first, as I said, Pakistan versus New Zealand, the second test is underway. We're waiting for the day 3 to begin. And yes, the second news is that, there's a high-end situation between Australia's and India's series together because of the fact that there has been a slight bit of COVID outbreak. We'll talk definitely about that. And yes, the British Boxing Board of Control has finally decided that, we have to take very good care in the sense that, we need no more boxing in January because of the COVID situation. All right, so we're back. So we're definitely talking first things first. That is Pakistan versus New Zealand, the Test series. As we all know, we initially saw the T20 series, which was a special transmission given by us, and I'm sure you guys had a chance to learn more about it. But yes, now let's talk about the Test series. Pakistan lost the first Test, which was more technically hard for us to understand why there were some glitches, there were some major ups and downs, there were some major misfieldings, and New Zealand won by 101 runs. Yes, that was one thing that was looked into, but yet again, we still had some positivity from the team as team because there was a lot of learning perspectives to the team, and I think that is one thing that we definitely have to focus on as a team. Playing a Test match is not an easy thing. It requires a lot of patience. So for that, it also brings the team members close to one another. But besides losing the first Test, of course, there are only two of the tests that are really happening. The first Test is obviously on New Zealand side. They won. And now the second Test is underway in which we've just, seen that, Pakistan managed to score 297 all out. However, on the New Zealand side, it's 286 for 3 after playing for one innings, which is 85 overs. So we'll see and we'll definitely get into the details about this. We have with us Mustafa Naqvi, who will definitely be joining us as a correspondent, and he will definitely be telling us about the entire situation. Hello, Mustafa. How are you?
Hi, Alamdar. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, Mustafa. So let's talk about the Pakistan versus New Zealand situation right now. As we all know, the first Test, a lot of lessons to be learned to begin with. It had been a tough journey. There was some quick dismissals at the very start, which obviously brought down the entire situation of the team. But then coming to a point of rising up again and at least trying their best is one thing as a team. I think that kind of helped the team. So tell me, we'll start from the first Test so we can discuss the first Test and then we'll talk about the current Test. So how do you see the first Test that Pakistan had faced against New Zealand, and what were the drawbacks that brought us to the situation that we eventually had to lose the game?
So, Alamdar, overall, I think we fought well in the first Test. New Zealand outplayed us. I think we have to admit that, probably in all 3 departments of the game: batting, bowling, fielding. I think given where we were at in the first innings, it looked like the game might be over in 3 days. Yeah. But we fought back with some lower order partnerships. Rizwan got runs, Fahim Ashraf got runs, and we were able to almost sneak out a draw in the end, and which would have been quite a moral victory if we were able to. Fuad Alam played magnificently in the second innings, made 100.
Absolutely.
So overall, it was a good fight. I think, given where we were at one point in the Test, we fought back really hard. We gave them a good run for their money. And we almost sneaked out a draw, which would have been a good result given the circumstances.
What impact do you currently think, if obviously now that we've lost the first Test and now it comes the second Test, so obviously it does have an impact on the team itself. It's not easy to play Test matches. It takes a lot of time, energy, mental agility, and all the resistance, and obviously effort, teamwork. and it's definitely tiring. For instance, if we ended up a draw, which initially we were not really looking at, like you said, the day one when it all started, and like you said that we thought that it would end maybe earlier, as in like by day three, which everybody thought. But for instance, if we had a draw back then, and we were playing this test match that we are currently playing, how much would it be impacting our us, the entire team, as in the performance side?
So it would have definitely given the team a big boost. I think I was reading a stat the other day that New Zealand hasn't lost a home test since March 2017 or something along those lines. So they're a very formidable team at home. They have probably the greatest bowling attack they've ever had. And our team is relatively young. We have a brand new captain in Rizwan, a lot of new faces in the side. So it would have been a great moral victory. It would have given us a great boost going into the second test. But I think from the fight that we gave, we already got a bit of a boost. We got a bit of a moral victory, I would call it, even though we ended up losing the game. But we almost brought it right down till the end of day 5. And it's not easy to do that. I remember at one point in day 3, we were 55 for 5 or something along those lines.
Exactly, I remember
and even
that,
the commentators,
yes.
even the commentators were talking about, it could be over in 3 days. So given that, it was a great fight back. And going into the second test, I think we've definitely come with a bit of a more positive approach. You can see that the batsmen, we were scoring at a faster rate. We made almost 300 in the first day.
Right.
So you could definitely see the change of approach from the first test. They were quite defensive, our batsmen, to the second test, because now this becomes a must-win game if we want to at least draw the series.
So have they, so Mustafa, have they really changed, besides changing the entire format of the being more offensive in the second test? I was just wondering, have they made any particular changes in the team members as well?
Yeah, I think Yasser Shah got dropped, and we brought in a new debutant. His name was Zafar Gohar.
Right.
He's played some first-class cricket, very highly rated. He got 30-odd with the bat in the first innings. It wasn't bad. It looked like he could play. He's brought in as an all-rounder, so he's expected to get some runs for us. I think he bowled okay today. It was his debut in his bowling, so he was a little nervous, you could tell. And the New Zealanders, it's not really a spin-friendly surface, as we all know in New Zealand. They generally favor the faster bowlers. So big game for him, especially. But good to see that we're bringing in youth and that we're trying out new guys.
Right. About the bowling stance, Mohammad Abbas, if we look at his medium pace bowling, but it becomes very predictable, let's take it that way. Because I was looking to his stats as well, and I'm not really seeing some major breakthrough from his bowling, because I think test cricket is majorly about breakthroughs from the bowlers, and if I'm not wrong.
That's correct. Very accurately put, Alamdar. I think that his bowling over the last maybe year and a half hasn't been at what it was at its height.
The prime,
when he was, I think at one point he was also the #1 ranked test bowler in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So he's in a bit of a dip of a form. So we need a little more from him. I think all of our bowlers overall haven't been, except for maybe Shaheen Afridi, who's been really leading the attack like a senior bowler. The rest have been a little disappointing, and Abbas especially, I think a few question marks are starting to be raised about his effectiveness now. Given that he is, just medium pace, he bowls around that 125, 130 mark. So his strength is in his control and his line and length, which he still has, but he's not getting the wickets that he was getting earlier, which is maybe a bit of a concern for the team.
Because if I'm not wrong, if you start off bowling with a new ball, so the swing part is more capable, more applicable, if I'm not wrong. And then obviously with due time, when the bowling stance takes over and the ball gets old, I think that definitely does affect the swinging part, right?
Yes, it does. Generally, the new ball, moves around a bit more, especially in a place like New Zealand. It seems a lot. There's always bounce. So the new ball is always where the bowlers are at their most threatening. And usually as the day goes on and as the test match goes on, it becomes a little bit easier to bat. Especially as the ball gets older, generally it becomes easier to bat.
Okay. So, and besides the fact that, Mohammad Abbas, we still need to get more on the coaching side, specifically with regards to bowlers and the line, of course. One more thing that, like you said, that, Mohammad Abbas was at one point one of the best or the top notch bowler with regards to his test performance. And not only him, let's talk about Kane Williamson. I mean, like, he's like the number one batsman right now when it comes to Test cricket.
Absolutely. However much you can, talk about Kane Williamson is not enough. He's a magnificent player, great captain, and he's absolutely on top of his game right now. I think he has 300s in his last 3 tests, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2 in the last 2, including this one. So he's just on top of his game. We cannot seem to get him out. We've tried everything. And he's just probably the greatest batsman New Zealand will ever have by the time he finishes his career. So we're up against one of the best.
So yes, to facing the best, we definitely need to put in more effort, Mustafa. One more thing, Mustafa.
Absolutely.
If we look at the first test that I was talking about, obviously we were definitely more on the defensive side, and switching over to the second test, we've more moved into the offensive side. I just want to know that initially, let's talk about let's go on the batting side. We still have that loss that brings us to where we always end up is obviously not having those startups, those players at the very beginning, at the top notch, at the top order that can actually stand in and stand tall for, if you're like playing a test match, you need to have that energy and the will and the stamina to go through the entire day, because I don't think it's an easy job to do. But how can we still come up to a point of bringing and practicing the fitness level of our team members to come there?
So I think at this level, at the test level, most of these guys are usually fit enough, to play in the team, to compete. The more concern for me is the top order. I think it's a bit of a worry, given that we haven't been getting good starts at all.
Right.
Shan Masood, Abid Ali, they're both under pressure now. They haven't performed for quite a few games. And if we had gotten, a decent start in either of the innings in the last test, we might have ended up with a draw. Right. And we're seeing the same thing here. I mean, they're trying their best. You have to give them that. And they're up against a world-class bowling attack in their own conditions. Yeah. So they're really up against it. But I really think we need more contributions from our top order if we want to, try to win or at least draw.
Yes, because even in the previous test, you're absolutely right. With the top order, actually, the trickle-down effect, when it starts working for us, it works in mysterious ways for Pakistan cricket team. But when it comes to the unpredictability, like even in the first test match, on an instantaneous scale, in between a situation came that, Pakistan managed to come and rise again. And like you said, that we're still hoping that we ended up in a draw, because Fawad Alam's century is remarkable coming, and I think it's like about after 12 years, if I'm not wrong, with regards to his performance as and reinventing himself as a test player.
So yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Anyways, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, Mustafa, and as soon as I come back, we'll talk more about the current test, which is underway. And yes, see you guys within a break. And welcome back, everybody. Yes, we're talking about Pakistan versus New Zealand. The second test that is still underway. And even then, Pakistan managed to start with 297 all out, whereas New Zealand is on 286 for 3 on the day 2. Anyways, so we still have with us Mustafa Naqvi. So Mustafa, once again, welcome back. So we were discussing basically the situation scenarios in which Pakistan being on the offensive side at the current moment, rather than being on the defensive side, but yet working on their stance as a team which can actually not only bowl well, and obviously they're facing one of the top-notch team when it comes to even batting or bowling, because it's their own home ground, which is the biggest edge for them. So how do you see that, for now at least, India, when it comes to performance of New Zealand itself, and they're currently at 286 for 3, how do you see this will flow in this second test?
So I think we're not in the best situation right now. New Zealand have almost reached our score, and they still have 7 wickets in hand.
Right.
It was a great partnership by Kane Williamson and Henry Nicholls, and they really, kind of took the game away from us in the last 2 sessions.
Right.
We had gotten a couple of early breakthroughs, But again, I think the catching let us down a little bit. We spilled a catch. There was also a wicket of a no
No
ball.
ball, yeah,
So,
exactly.
so some of these things, and it's kind of spilled over from the last game where we also dropped a few catches. So I think more than anything, that's one of the most disappointing parts is the fielding again has been letting us down
Right.
consistently, and something that definitely needs to be looked at and improved
Yes,
because it's really not at.
even
Yeah,
with
go ahead.
regards to fielding, if I'm not wrong, I was like looking through some updates from all the senior cricketers as well, and they're definitely not really happy about the whole idea
Hmm.
of how Pakistan cricket team is looking into the fielding side. Because if you,
Hmm.
and even in the first test match, if you remember, there were a lot of
Hmm.
drop catches. That's like one of the
Hmm.
things, right? So how do you think, does it bring us to a point of, is it something associated to the fitness level of the boys, or is it the confidence that they lose confidence when they're at someone else's, for instance, someone else's home ground, for instance? Like even in Pakistan, when it comes to Pakistanis playing on their own field, it's like a complete different story. But playing
Hmm.
on different outfields like New Zealand itself, not only the pitch is different, but the entire
Hmm.
field and the situation is different for them. So, what do you think
Hmm.
are the major factors that brought the team to this level of fielding for now, at least?
So I think it has to come down to practice.
Right.
Fielding is something that even if you don't have the natural ability, if you practice hard enough, you can become a good fielder.
Right.
So I don't know if it's gonna come down to maybe appointing a fielding coach. We have done that in the past. We've had some foreign fielding coaches who have worked with us, and we
Right.
have seen improvements in the past. It has to come down to the players themselves to take the responsibility. I don't think fitness is necessarily an issue. In a test match, concentration can be an issue. You're spending hours and hours in the field,
Right.
standing around most of the day. So, that's understandable. It happens. Everyone drops catches. It's part of the game.
Right.
I think Ross Taylor dropped a catch in our first innings. He dropped Fahim Ashraf at first slip. So even they can drop catches, and New
Yeah,
Zealand is an
I absolutely
outstanding
look into that. But
fielding
one more
side.
thing with regards to fitness, of
Hmm.
course, let's,
Hmm.
because there's the other story that we were also supposed to be discussing with regards to
Hmm.
COVID-19 situation in Australia versus India's third test. So that's another story and developing story right now for the fact that, there were some breaching protocols from five of India's players, which kind of brought in the situation. And obviously, there's a major outbreak right now, and now they're planning on
Hmm.
switching. So, but coming to think of the idea of COVID itself, how do you see their series? Which direction are they heading now?
So I hope that it doesn't affect the series because it's been an outstanding series so far. With
Right.
India fought back to draw it, tie it 1-1 all. So I really hope that they're able to figure this out, get past this little hurdle that they've come across. I think the same thing happened to Pakistan when we landed in New Zealand. Some of our players had broke a protocol. So this bubble life isn't easy for all the players. We've heard a lot of players coming out and talking about the stresses and the psychological factors associated with being in a constant bubble life.
Right.
So let's hope that it doesn't affect the series, but it seems to be a serious problem that's escalating in Australia.
I think the outbreak is like pretty much everywhere, and every country is trying to keep up with their protocols. And
Hmm.
even when the T20 started for Pakistan versus New Zealand, I think one of the major things that affected them was had to be the situation of COVID-19. As you know, they weren't really
Hmm.
allowed to practice that much, and leading them to
Hmm.
a point of and not knowing the pitch and how the boundaries would be, and how the field would be and how the environment would be,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
obviously the pitches and the field is definitely new for us, and obviously not new for the New Zealand people. But anyways, we still need to have. Let's talk about pitches as well. That the confidence that we still need as a team is not only to have a solid stance when it comes to the batting side, but also the bowling side. So while COVID struck us, it took us a while to kind of get ourselves sorted, because if you recall, the third T20 that we played ended up pretty much solid for us, which means that we can prove ourselves, or we can work as a team to ensure that we can win. For instance, if we manage to do this with regards to the second test, even though, like you said, that Kane Williamson and Nicholas is always they're always on the go and being very solid about the whole situation, but Do you still think we still have hope somewhere in this second test series that's underway?
Definitely, I don't think all hope is lost, although New Zealand is in a very strong position right now. But if we start well tomorrow, get a couple of early wickets, get Kane Williamson out, get Henry Nicholls out, we're into their lower order. And they have capable batsmen in their lower order too. So it's not going to be an easy task. But we have to keep fighting and keep believing. The game still has 3 days to go. It's a lot of time left. Right. I think if we just come up with some better bowling plans, maybe try some new strategies, because what we've tried so far hasn't really worked. Right. But we really need to get some wickets early tomorrow and start the fight back if we have any chance of winning this test.
Right. With regard to our bowlers, for instance, if you had a chance to maybe add in someone who is not on the squad for now, who would you see as someone who could have maybe added more value to the team by at least taking wickets? Because test is pretty much all about taking as much wickets as you can, and for the batsman is to be as defensive as they can. I mean, again, obviously being offensive, but to an extent. So which bowler do you think should have been on board in Pakistan cricket at squad right now?
That's a tough question. I mean, we have a lot of, good players in first-class cricket. There's a couple of names off the top of my head. Yeah. Sadaf Hussain is one, Tabish Khan. Right. These are guys who are very experienced and have taken hundreds of wickets in first class. So, there's always, Pakistan is known for our fast bowlers. We have a long legacy and history of, outstanding fast bowlers. Right. So I think the boys that we have right now are probably the best for those positions. But if we don't see much improvement from the likes of Naseem Shah, Abbas, who have they've seemed to have plateaued, not improving that much. Right. I think only Shaheen Afridi has consistently been threatening, and he's had an outstanding series so far. But if these guys don't start getting some wickets, I think we can definitely call up some of the newer guys and give them a chance too.
Right. So one more thing that, besides all of this, I still think we still have, like you said, we still need to be hopeful. And yes, the plateau part is truly important for the fact that, I was still hoping that, he eventually Abbas manages to at least bring back his legacy of, a wicket taker, because we seriously need a bowler who could actually come and take wickets. And yes, experience is something that is pretty much important when it comes to test matches, if I'm not wrong, right?
Absolutely correct. And I think with this team, you'll see that the average age is probably a little bit older. Most of these guys are very experienced players, although some of them might be new to test cricket. Right. For example, Zafar Gohar is brand new, but they have a good solid base of first-class cricket. Right. And that has shown with someone like Fawad Alam, who, spent 10, 11 years outside the team, grinded in first-class cricket, never gave up hope, and came back and, scored a fantastic century last game. So our system is still producing good players.
Yep.
It's just that,
and I absolutely vouch for what you say. Experience is all that matters. Mustafa Naqvi, thank you so very much for being with us on the show today. And let's hope for the best for Pakistan cricket team to end up scoring what they truly have to, and ensuring that they win against New Zealand. But yes, let's talk about the last story, which is definitely about boxing. The British Boxing Board of Control has actually announced that there were 57,725 cases of coronavirus in UK on Saturday, due to which they've eventually decided to cancel all the boxing matches that were scheduled for January 2021, which means that Josh Kelly will not be facing David Avadison. And yes, that was basically a European title fight, which is not happening. It was scheduled for the 30th of January. And besides that, there was another Scott Lee McGregor and Kareem Gurfi. They both had to fight on the 22nd of January, which is also not happening. So I guess the COVID's second wave is still underway, not only because the entire situation of not only boxing, so it has affected boxing to a point of not even hosting any matches during January, which means the rise is definitely serious and high, and NHS is trying to take control as much as they can, because of the fact that, if this outbreak takes another toll, it has already done that, because it's 57,725 confirmed cases, means the level of seriousness of the COVID-19 virus on this part of the world. Not to forget, the same situation is with the series that I discussed about India and Australia. But anyways, we still hope for the best for the British Boxing Board of Control to ensure that things go well with regards to the planned matches that were supposed to happen in January. But anyways, till 30th of January, everything is off. Anyways, these were the major updates and major news with regards to sports from all across the globe. You guys can still reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. Till then, I would definitely beg leave, and I'll see you guys very soon. Take good care, and bye-bye.